So hello internet, I'm about to create a couple of videos about my Anycubic Kobra S1 3D printer. So I want to show you some fixes that I made and the problems that I'm having with this device, because since I bought it I have nothing but issues with this one. So let me give you some background first. I bought this printer from a local supplier, an online shop, not from Anycubic. So I printed a couple of small things for like 2 days. Oh, it's upgrading right now, if you can see it. It's updating the firmware. So basically I printed for a couple of days, and then at one point I decided to just print a simple benchy for my son, and I did that from the thumb drive that's coming with the printer. So I already printed a couple of these, so I just poked the thumb drive and went out for 10 minutes. When I returned back, I saw that the Hotend, the nozzle of the printer, was grinding on the build plate, and like grinding a lot. It was not like just a small grind. It was so much that it grinded the build plate to the metal, and that's the original build plate basically. So what I did, I stopped of course the printer. I took out the nozzle, and it appeared to be a little bit loose. I'm not sure what happened. Does that happen because of the grinding, or that was the cause of the grinding? But yeah, since then basically all I had was issues. So the first issue was that I was not able to auto level the printer in any way. So what was happening is that here, for example, on the front right side, the filament was barely touching the build plate, and here on the rear left side, the nozzle was literally grinding the build plate. So it was that bad. And also it was grinding in the middle and on different places. On other places it was so high that the filament was not sticking on the build plate. So I went crazy trying to level the heat bed. That went so crazy that I barely destroyed the heat bed. As you can see, it's in horrible condition right now. So basically I went so crazy that I tried to put rubber dampers under the heat bed, and I thought that they are heat resistant, but it turned out that they are not. So one of these catched fire and burned the heat traces on the hot plate, so I had to repair that. And the entire time I was doing that, on the back of my mind I was thinking that, well, this shouldn't happen if the sensor that is doing the auto leveling is working properly, because no matter how uneven your build plate is, when the printer is doing the auto leveling, it probes the heat bed on 25 points, like 5x5 grid, and then the software should be able to basically compensate for all the unevenness of the heat bed. And yes, if your heat bed is really bad, like mine, you can have imperfections here and there, but it shouldn't be that bad, you know. So at some point I decided to basically focus my attention on the pressure sensor and not the heat bed. So basically what I did was I contacted the Anycubic support, and then they refused to recognize my warranty because the printer is not bought directly from them but from a local supplier. So they told me that I have to go through the local supplier, then the local supplier will contact them and they will resolve the issue. But for me, this means that it will take a lot of time, because basically I had to send the printer back with a shipping company to the local supplier, and then they have to test it, then they have to contact Anycubic, fix it, send it back. That's a lot of going back and forth, so I didn't want to do that. So I asked them to sell me the parts. So basically they sold me the pressure sensor, this L-shaped thing here, and the heatsink for $16, and then they sold me the heat bed, here it is, for $50 basically. That's the entire thing. And meanwhile, while I was waiting for the parts, I decided to put, because this thing is sitting like that and the nozzle is going in here, so I decided to put two washers here between the heatsink and the sensor to see if, just to make sure that this is not touching something and the nozzle is low enough so it can correctly pressure the build plate. And I put two of these brass washers. They are 0.5 millimeter thick, M3. So as soon as I did that and I started the print, everything went back to normal, even with that screwed heat plate. So anyways, after that actually I was able to do like a 3 or 4 successful prints. And the thing that I'm trying to print is a rather large box for a prototype that I'm building. So if you can see here, basically this is the build that I'm trying to print. And it is almost to the edges of the build plate. It's like 24 by 23 centimeters and it's 7.5 centimeters high. So after these 2 or 3 successful prints, when I try to print that thing that's around 15 hours of print, I started to get an error on random points during the print. So sometimes it happens after 1 hour, sometimes in the 2nd or the 3rd or the 6th hour of the print. But basically I'm not able to finish any large prints on this printer. And the error is either 104.13 or 104.14. So I contacted the Anycubic support again. They asked, of course I went first through the wiki where they supposed to check all the cable connections on the printer, so I basically disassembled the entire printer and I checked all the connections of the printer. I tried to print with or without the Ace Pro, and this always happens at some point of the print. I get either 104.13 or 104.14 error. So I contacted the Anycubic support. They again refused to recognize the warranty, and they asked me to, they sent me a file that you put on a thumb drive, and when the error happens, you plug the thumb drive in the USB port, and that generates an archive with WOC files, basically. So I did that. I sent them the WOCs, and they told me that there is something wrong with the motherboard and I have to replace it. So they agreed to sell me a motherboard for $40 that I'm still waiting to arrive. Right now I have only the pressure sensor and the heat bed. So in these videos I will go through the process of changing the pressure sensor, the radiator for the nozzle, the heat bed, and the motherboard. So in the first video I will start with the pressure sensor. I will show you how I fixed it, because my current pressure sensor and the Hotend is working really well, but I want to put the new one and see if it will print well. And because I saw some videos on YouTube where people basically have a degraded experience with the first layer quality, so basically they print the same thing like 15 times, the first 5 or 6 times it's okay, then it gets worse and worse with every other part. So what I want to see is first if these will change anything, and second, if it's okay, will it degrade with time. Okay, so let's start with the changing of the pressure sensor. So here I have a first layer test with my current setup with the old sensor that I fixed with these washers, and as you can see it's not that bad at all. I have inconsistencies here and there, but nothing too bad. So here it is, and here it's not that good, but again check out the heat bed, it's really bad, so that might be the reason for this. So I saw that the printer, just when I started to record, the printer prompted me to update the firmware, so I did that, and let me now turn it on to see what's going on. Okay, so looks like it's upgraded. I'm not sure if that's gonna fix that error issue, but I will give it a try later when I change the pressure sensor. Okay, so first let's home the device and move the heat bed down so we can work on the printing end. First, let's bring the print head in the front. So to remove the front cover, you just apply some pressure on the top and pull on the bottom. Be careful because there is a cable attached for the fan. And this is the pressure sensor here, and here is the radiator. So I'm not sure if it's visible here, but this is where I put the washers, basically. So in order to remove the pressure sensor, we have to remove the back cover also, so we can disconnect it. So let me get a proper tool. So once we remove the screws, we can just pull that plastic away and it will come off. So, as you can see, the pressure sensor has 4 cables. It's white, black, green and thread. So we can find, here we go, here are, actually they're quite different here. We have white and red instead of green. So we can just trace the cables and find the connector on the back side. Here we go. So when you're doing that, be very careful, because if you snap the cables, so it's on the bottom. If you snap the cables, especially from here where you can see the white blob, you probably won't be able to repair these, so be careful. Now that we have the cable removed, here on that side there are 3 screws that we have to remove. So I will just loosen them a little bit, and before we completely remove the sensor, I'm going to remove the Hotend. So we leave that lever up and just manage these cables away. And disconnect it from the back, or you can just leave it hanging. I will elaborate a little bit more on these Hotends because I replaced the stock one. So now that we have that away, I will completely remove the 3 screws on the side. There is a hole there that have like a plastic leg that's coming in the small hole. So this is my old sensor with the heatsink, and you can see the washers here that I added. And if you have problems, like you are feeling like your bed leveling is not working at all, or just your nozzle is grinding on the build plate, or there is no way you can make it to work well, you can try putting 2 of these washers here. So make sure they are no more than 0.5 millimeters, because otherwise you won't probably be able to fit the heatsink here in this plastic thing. So we have to also remove this part that is tightening the nozzle, and it's the same size, so we probably have to remove these 3 screws. I never did that, so just guessing. Yeah, and we will transfer that to the new heatsink. I hope there is no spring inside that will jump. So I think there might be. Yeah. So let's make sure that this is not flying away. So, okay. And that should be this way. Yeah, there is a spring inside. Okay, so I will not completely remove this screw, just to make sure that this is not flying away, and I will just transfer that here. So let me put that one away, and let's fit the bummer. I'll have to also get these screws. Okay, so now that we have it assembled, let us put that back in here. So just like that, and we have to put these 3 screws now. When you are assembling this, make sure that there is a gap here between the plastic parts. I will connect it to the board. Okay, and now we just have to assemble it and do a test print to see if there is any difference in the quality of the first layer. So we're going to assemble it in the reverse order. So first the back side. Make sure that your cables are not pinched anywhere. Okay, so with that done, let us put the nozzle. So we first insert the connector on the back side. Make sure it's all the way in. Then we route the cables here, and I'm going to trim that a little bit. Just put that in. So when you are inserting the nozzle, just make sure that, oh come on, okay, here we go. Make sure that this ring here is completely flushed with the heatsink. So it has to go, oh, why it's not getting in? Oh, here we go. Okay, so make sure that this is full in and then tighten it. Okay, so now let me tell you a couple of words on these Hotends. So basically, when you buy Hotends, especially the aftermarket Hotends, so these two wires are for the heating element, and these two are for the thermistor that is measuring the temperature of the Hotend. So if you buy aftermarket Hotends, first, before you put it in, measure the resistance of the thermistor, because there are, and I will show you one of these, but basically there are Hotends that have the wrong thermistor there. So just put your multimeter into resistance and measure the resistance. So as you can see here, I have 260 kiloohms, and that should be basically in room temperature. This reading will vary, of course, because that's what thermistors do. Depending on the temperature, they give different resistance. But in room temperature, this thermistor should give you more than 200 kiloohms. So if it is below 200, it won't work properly. So I found out that these are really good, because first of all, they are smaller and they heat and cool much faster than the original one, and they have the proper resistance on the thermistor. I also bought these Hotends. They look much similar to the original ones, but they are not working properly because their thermistor, I will measure it now if I can open the back. Here we go. As you can see, it's almost similar to the original one, but the thermistor in room temperature is 104 kilo ohms. That's much lower. The other one was 260. So this won't work properly in this printer. So when you buy Hotends, just before putting them in the printer, make sure it has the proper resistance. Okay, so now let's put the front side. So when you take off the front side, make sure you're not homing the device, because this plastic is hitting on this limit switch, and without it there is nothing to push the switch and you hear some ugly noises. Is this the other way around? Yeah, okay. So now let's make sure that the cables are okay and not pinched anywhere, and I will turn on the printer just to make sure that there is no air or something. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so let's turn that on. Anycubic. Okay, no errors. This means that we connected everything and hopefully everything is working fine. So now I will start another print with the first layer test to see if it behaves any different from my fixed pressure sensor. Okay, so the first layer test print with the new pressure sensor just finished. So as you can see, it's not much different. Oh, it's actually worse than the print with my old sensor with the washers. So, but it's definitely not that bad when the nozzle was scraping the build plate. So yeah, it's pretty much similar to the other one, but again, that might be very well from the horrible hotbed that I have here. So when I change the hotbed, I will do the test again, and if that's not okay after that, I will probably put the washers again. But it's definitely not that bad. If it's just the first layer, you can see these things, but if you have more layers on top of that, it will be better. Okay, so that's that. for the first video, and in the next video I am going to check the hotbed, to change the hotbed, and I will show you some fixes for the hotbed, because there is definitely a design flaw in this printer on the back side of the y-axis. So if you have that issues with the first layer where you have very bad results, nozzle grinding on the hotbed, or you're feeling like your auto-leveling is not working at all, you have different results, you have to add z-axis offset in the slicing software, definitely try to add these washers between the heatsink and the pressure sensor, and that might solve the issues for you. See you next time.